All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks and GameTime. It is Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth for another live off-season show here. As the wait continues until training camp in late July. So we are going to kick it over to the chat and to our viewers over there today for a live Q&A. So anything you guys have in mind, whether it was from spring practices, whether you're looking forward to training camp, maybe even looking forward to the regular season. We touched on some free agents that are still available last show. If you want to talk about any of them, potential trade targets, anything, even if you want to go beyond Patriots, we just want to Banner 18 with the Celtics. We have a parade tomorrow. The NHL offseason kind of got off to a random start yesterday. We had a bunch of goalies trades. So Linus Ullmark will still be on the move, maybe sometime. And the Red Sox kind of fun. So anything on your guys' mind, make sure to leave that in the chat. And we will get to any and all of it over here for the next about half hour or so. And we already have one talking UFL, our new Liam Fornell signing. Can he play offensive tackle? He played a little at James Madison, I believe, right? But most of his experience between there and at the DC Defenders has come at the guard spot.
Yeah, I think he played a little left tackle in the UFL too. I mean, he's done it. He's definitely better at guard, but anybody who has left tackle experience that's on this roster right now should be playing there, period. I'm not telling you it's going to work. I'm not telling you Liam Fornell is going to answer all of their problems. I don't think he will, but find out. Simply put, find out. That's what the preseason's for. At least give him a shot. Like he's a decent guard. He can maybe push for like a depth guard spot, certainly a practice squad spot. I think he is a guard in the NFL though.
Do you know his like size measurements? I was just trying to pull up his.
Yeah, I had it. Yes, I think it's like 6'5", 313.
Okay. So decent size, depending what the arm length is.
Yeah, 6'5", 313. Oh, okay. See, arm length might be tough. I don't think he did the combine.
The combine.
Right. So you'd have to go back.
What? There's one on. It's NFL Draft Buzz. They have his arms at 31 1/2, which is very low or short.
I mean, that's probably from his pro day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's in the 3 percentile. So the arms might be a little short there for a tackle, but yeah, he's played it a little at James Madison, so it can't hurt. Again, with the shape the offensive tackle and the left tackle spot is right now, it can't hurt to maybe try and see what you have there throughout training camp. But 2 wide receiver questions.
Yeah.
One will start. What do you make of the current wide receiver room as it kind of stands right now with 12 deep?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely depth. I think it's going to be the same thing we've done the last couple of years. We're going to debate the last few spots, act like they have this tremendous depth at wide receiver, and then we're going to remember just because all the guys are equal doesn't necessarily mean they're good. So there is a foundation there. I think Bourne, Polk, Baker, Pop is like a solid foundation. They still need the coverage dictator. They still need the guy at the top of the depth chart. That's kind of it though. Like the second tier wide receivers, I'm done with them adding second tier wide. They have enough of those guys that are solid, and adding that top wide receiver probably doesn't come till next year. It's just the reality of it. But yeah.
Or as someone else says, Brandon Ayuk seems like that's still on thin ice with San Francisco. There was like that Instagram video where he was talking to Jaden Daniels and he's like, they don't want me no more. Whether he was even talking about San Fran, we don't know. But Ayuk has been a name that's been out there a lot. He needs a new contract. He would be that number one kind of coverage dictating guy. I still don't think San Fran is going to trade him. They're in kind of this wide open, still Super Bowl window. He's their best receiver. I think it's pretty clear he's elevated over Debo. Doesn't really make sense to trade him. So, and B, I'm kind of in the camp where at this point, just see what you have in Jalen Polk, see what you have in Javon Baker. Maybe Pop Douglas takes a nice little step year 2. And then if Drake May kind of shows you something whenever he sees the field, if it's week 1, maybe it's in the back half of the year, then you go out next year and then you add your Brandon Ayuk, or now you get your coverage dictating one. And, then, I think we both think Polk's ceiling might be like a really high end number 2, which is still a really good thing to have. And now those guys kind of slide into your depth chart a little bit better. So I would love Brandon Ayuk. I think he's top 10, top 12 receiver in football, but I think this move would come next year, and I still don't see San Fran even trading Ayuk in the first place.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't see the incentive to trade him. You're really going to have to convince them, and that means a first round pick. And if I'm the Patriots, I mean, that's probably a top 10 pick. I like Brandon Ayuk. I'm not trading a top 10 pick for him. Certainly not, especially with the significant needs they still have on the offensive line. Potentially at pass rusher next year, depending on what happens with some of their contracts. So I don't think he's getting dealt in the first place. And if he does, I just don't think it makes sense for the Patriots right now.
What would you give up? Like that second, which could be
if it's like a
35,
second,
40, and
right?
like a 4th, 5th.
And
kind
then
of like that Higgins trade we talked about a lot.
Yeah, I think you do that. It's like a 2nd and a 4th, because you're not going to be able to give up a 1st. And then you hope none of the teams at the back end of you hope like if Kansas City's in the conversation, or a team like that's going to have a pick that starts with a 2 or a 3, you hope they're not also you hope they don't match the 2nd pick that you give.
Yeah. Because it sounded like, what were the rumors around the draft? They were looking at like 17 from Jacksonville, which they obviously didn't get, but they're probably going to want a first round pick. But if they value the Patriots maybe as a top 40, then and they don't have a better offer, maybe that's how it gets done. Kind of there. But yeah, I think we both agree that's probably a move next year. See what you have with some of these young guys. And then you go out and you add your Stephon Diggs or one of these guys next year. Someone says DK Metcalf.
That's my guy. That's who I want.
That's your guy.
Add. Yeah.
That's your dream goal.
I just think he's such a perfect fit. He's such a perfect fit for everything. He'll be 27 years old. That's the guy I want them to go after.
He'll really only be 27.
Yeah, he's young. So he just turned.
I guess he was the Nikhil draft. Yeah.
Yeah, he turned 26 in December. So this will be his age 26 season.
Wow.
Which is here. Let me ask you this too. I know they're the same draft, but doesn't AJ Brown feel much older than DK Metcalf? Doesn't it feel like he's been in the league longer? Or is that just me?
Yeah. Maybe it's just because he's in the news more. He got traded.
Maybe. I'm thinking maybe because he's been on multiple teams.
Yeah. Debo too. I feel like Debo's been around forever at this point.
Yeah.
And he was that same draft. But yeah, that's crazy. They're only 26, 27. And then who would be like the class that is going into the last year of their deal? Is that like Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, those type of guys?
I think so. Wait, so Justin Jefferson's in he was going into the last year of his rookie deal this year, right?
Yeah, that was
he played 20, 21, 22, 23. He was going into his 5th year option year.
Yeah.
So he's drafted in 2020. So it wouldn't be the 21 class because they're all going into their 5th year option year this year. Yeah. Jamar Chase, right? Jalen Waddle, they just got extensions.
So it'd be
it's the 22 class. So that is
I think
Drake London, like Garrett Wilson, Olave, Jameson
Yep.
Williams, Jahan Dotson, Christian Watson already. That's crazy, man. George Pickens, Alec Pierce, Romeo Dobbs, Khalil Shakir. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the big name. I mean, there's some other guys in there, but nobody that like you're going to pursue like that. Who's undrafted?
Tyquan Thornton.
Yeah, Rashid Shaheed, Britton Covey were like the top undrafted receivers.
Any of those guys interest you? I mean, Garrett Wilson would be awesome. You're not getting him.
Yeah, there's no shot in hell.
But I mean, like Drake London, Chris Olave, they're both in the NFC. The Saints are always in salary cap hell, maybe.
Yeah, I still think those guys are like 2s. I still think those guys are what you want Jalen Polk to be.
Yeah.
So
I was a big Chris Olave fan coming out, but he's kind of Jalen Polky, I would say.
Right. So I don't, it's definitely, and we talked about it that year, I think, being a down year at receiver.
Yeah.
So, nobody really in that class. But then if you want to get way ahead of it, now last year's class sucked out. I guess just Jordan Addison, really.
Was he? Oh, well, JSN, but
he's
yeah, he was.
And
And
he's going to replace Tyler Lockett. They're going to hold on to him.
They're not
I
gonna
basically
let him go.
my theory is like they keep JSN and then trade Metcalf for a pick and try to like replicate him as opposed to moving on, paying. If you pay Metcalf, then what do you do with JSN? Like, I just think Metcalf might be available.
Yeah, that would be a really good fit. I would like that. Or a guy who obviously has some familiarity here, Amari Cooper, with the whole coaching staff would be an interesting one.
Yeah, I've seen this. I can't imagine Cleveland actually makes him available. I know he's like kind of frustrated, but they have to be all in. I mean, they gave Deshaun Watson all that money. They gave up all their draft picks. He's far and away their best receiver. I know they've made some moves. They got Jerry Jeudy. They got Elijah Moore. But, I mean, I'd do it tomorrow. Like, if you can get Amari Cooper for like a second or third round pick, I'd do that tomorrow. I just don't think he's going to truly be available. I think that's probably just noise.
Yeah, so I think that stemmed like he didn't show up to mandatory minicamp. I think he wants a new contract or something. So that's where that came from. But yeah, I mean, they're all in on Deshaun Watson. So getting rid of his top wide receiver and a really good one in that sense, who just had a really good year, would be an interesting kind of move there for Cleveland. I can't see them getting rid of him. But just lastly on the wide receiver room, although I'm sure we'll get a few other questions, just do you feel better about this room where it's at compared to last year, especially maybe now that they're going to play a big part here in helping Drake May kind of develop early on?
I mean, I feel better, certainly. I don't know. They still have a ways to go, but I think you feel better just because they're younger. There's more promise there. I mean, Smith, Schuster, and Parker kind of were what they were. You weren't expecting them to get better. Now they were worse than expected, but there's no ceiling with those guys. Now you have ceiling. So, I mean, it feels better in theory, but they actually have to coach these guys up and get them there.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they really only lost Parker, right? That was the only guy who was here last year that left.
I mean, yeah, but it's, Smith, Schuster, and Thornton, are they going to be out? You add the two rookies, you add KJ Osborne. Like, it could end up looking very different by the time you get there.
By the time the season starts. But yeah, you're hoping Polk and Baker can kind of give you more than those guys last year.
Right.
Obviously. So let's see what else we got in the chat over here. Speaking of Ayuk, would you give a second in Matthew Judon? I don't know if San Fran would want Judon.
Yeah, they have a ton of pass rushers because they re-signed Chase Young, right? Didn't they re-sign Chase Young?
No, he went to Carolina?
Saints, New Orleans.
Saints.
But that's still, I mean, they've got a ton of pass rushers. I don't know how that really helps their window. I don't think San Francisco would do that. I guess I might. If you're not going to be able to work it out with Judon, you're getting a much younger player at a premium position. You're giving up a second-round pick and a player you're going to lose anyway. I mean, I guess, sure. I don't think San Francisco does that. They want offensive firepower.
Yep. I feel like you would probably have to trade Judon for like a third or a fourth round pick and then use that with your second to get Ayuk. That's probably how it would kind of finagle out if that's what you wanted to base it off of.
But then you have to be sure that's risky because if you make that deal, even after you trade Judon, San Francisco is going to go to other teams and say, well, this is what they're offering. And you got to hope nobody's going to, it's the player for player trades in the NFL are so tough. I don't know that you move Judon and get Ayuk. I think that would be very, very, very difficult to do.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You want Steph back? It's a guy we talked about a lot, Steph Gilmore.
I mean, look, I'd take him back. I think him and Gonzalez in the same cornerback room would be awesome. I think it'd be tremendous for Gonzalez, but I definitely feel better coming out of the spring just about the depth and about the ability at corner. Like, I don't think they need him to get through the season. Again, it would be cool to have him as a voice and a mentor. So I'll still take him, but I don't feel as strongly about them needing to add a corner as I did like 2 months ago.
Yep. Yeah. After the sprain, I mean, we said it so many times, like every single cornerback in that room had like an impressive moment or two, or someone like Alex Austin just had a full impressive sprain. So it's a young group, but it's really exciting. Lots of promise there. And it's a position they've had such great track record with, like with Mike Pellegrino back there too. So you trust them to develop those guys. So as fun as Gilmore and Gonzalez would be, like two quiet killers back there at your cornerback spots, I think they might be good for now. Now, maybe they get out there in the summer and it looks completely different and Gilmore's still hanging out there. Then we could kind of revisit that and make that call. But I think they're kind of good for now for being a young team, draft and develop team to enter training camp with this young, kind of exciting, promising group at corner there without another veteran.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. So we haven't talked enough about this in the past few shows. Is there another kicker out there? Because Nightshade is not a fan of Chad Ryland and Joey Sly, who both weren't great, you could say, in the spring. So there's only one kind of proven NFL kicker on the free agent market, and that's Randy Bullock, who I believe he only attempted like 5 or 6 field goals last year.
He only played in 6 games. He got signed by the Giants to fill in for whoever it was that got hurt, and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
So
that's the only experienced guy on the free agent market now. Now, fast forward 2 months, and there's going to be at least like 8 to 10 of them, because there's a lot of teams that have 2-3 kickers as they enter training camp, like the Patriots. So teams are going to move off from those guys. And then, of course, there are the UFL kickers who we talked about. Matt Coughlin was the one name who had a good year in for the Breakers, I believe he played for, and he has experience with Michigan State with Bryce Behringer, who was his holder. So there's some familiarity there. And then there were a few other names that I think you have pulled up that I don't remember off the top of my head, but there are some UFL kickers out there that had pretty impressive seasons for the UFL.
And the other thing is, like, kicker's not like other positions where, like, receiver, you ideally want him in camp all summer, building chemistry with the quarterback and all of that. Not that the kickers don't do that, but there's less of an adjustment. So they can also just kind of look around the league. There's 12 other teams with multiple kickers on their roster. Those teams aren't going to keep all those kickers. And some of those teams have multiple NFL caliber kickers. You look at the Panthers with Eddie Pinheiro and Harrison Mevis, or you look at the Lions with Michael Badgley and Jake Bates. And those kickers are either going to get cut or moved. And you're essentially, even the Titans with Nick Folk and Narverson, the kid from NC State, you could be on the other side of the Nick Folk trade last year. You just move a 7th round pick and you get one of these kickers that has proven to be NFL caliber, but just doesn't have a spot on the team he's on right now.
Yep. One got cut yesterday. It was the old Georgia kicker, Podludzny.
Yeah, Podludzny. Yeah, the Packers had 3 kickers.
Yeah. I don't think he's ever kicked in the NFL since he left Georgia. And it wasn't was he was Georgia, right? Not Ohio State?
Yeah. Okay, he was Georgia, but no, he wasn't Blankenship, not the one you're thinking.
Yeah. Well, no, I had like a brain. I was like, was he the one who missed the kick in the college football playoff? But no, that was the Ohio State. That was like Ruggles or something from Ohio State against Georgia. Podludzny went to Georgia. I think he was after Blankenship. So I don't think he's kicked in the NFL, but he got released from Green Bay yesterday. So they're down to 2 kickers. So there are going to be guys out there that they can add at some point this offseason. So definitely a position to watch there. But before we get to a few more questions here, I want to tell you guys about Prize Picks, which is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It is the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. And the Boston Celtics are NBA champions, but just because the finals are over does not mean the hoops action is stopping over on Prize Picks, because women's basketball is just getting started, and young stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, they're battling it out, and they're looking to make names for themselves alongside some of the great players like Breanna Stewart, and you could win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. So download Prize Picks today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy over on Prize Picks. Back to football, another wide receiver question. Could Cooper Kupp eventually shake loose when Stafford is done playing, since they have Puka? I don't know. What do you think Stafford's timeline is? Another 2 years? So now
If
you're
that,
really kind of talking down the future. You probably hope at that point you have your guy, and at that point, is Cooper Cup even Cooper Cup
right?
anymore?
Cooper Cup's not even Cooper Cup now. He's
Yeah,
31. Like
he has
the
hamstring injuries all the time now.
receivers over 30. There were only 9 receivers in the NFL last year, age 30 or older, to catch 50 or more passes. Like receivers drop off, and again, he's 31. He actually just turned 31 last week, so he's entering his age 31 season. Cooper Cup's not the answer. It's not.
Yeah.
Maybe a while ago he was, but not in 2024 or beyond.
Just the timeline doesn't work, and
Right.
it's just they should shoot. Awesome player the last few years, but they should be shooting higher for the position moving forward. Speaking of that draft pick that could be top 10, if they do have a top 10 pick, would you go left tackle or wide receiver, assuming your kind of top option is there at the position? If you have a top option in June, where we stand right now, way too early, but would you favor one of those positions with a top 10 pick next year?
Oh, I'm still here. Can you still hear me? I think my camera just kind of popped in and out.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah.
As I try to replug here, I'm sure you guys can still hear me. Did I do it? What's going on here?
Now you're flat.
There it is. Is this it? There we go.
There
Okay.
you are.
I mean, I still think it's tackle. They just don't. It's harder to get a tackle than a wide receiver. Like you trade for a guy like DK Metcalf, right? You're not trading for top tackles. They're just not being made available. That being said, if they are going to go receiver, I know I've talked a lot about Luther Burden. The other name to know is Tech McMillan from Arizona. Just because, and people pointed this out when I've mentioned Burden, and they're right. Like I think Burden's a really good player in a bubble, and you guys need to understand that's kind of just how I look at it until we get to like October, November, and I've kind of seen the Patriots a little bit. I've seen these guys play a little more because I don't watch the non-draft eligible guys as closely until they're, I'm still aware of them certainly, but I only have so much time, right? So it is true as you start kind of projecting Burden to specific teams. He is a bit smaller. He is more of an interior wide receiver. The Patriots have that's where they have talent. What they need is that big physical outside presence, which is what McMillan's listed, I think like 6'5", 225, something like that. Like he's that
big.
Yeah. I'm not saying I think that's or am I thinking of DK Metcalf? Because I literally just did this all on
Tech McMillan.
So
no, they don't have the size here.
Somebody had it. I saw it earlier. 6'5", 215. Sorry, 6'5", 215. So, big dude out of Arizona. I mean, you're looking at that Mike Evans, AJ Brown kind of skill set. I'm not saying he's as good as those guys. He just turned 21. Like it's a big year for him because he's more of a projection at this point. But that prototype of wide receiver, and we'll see how good he is. This would also be guys like Torrey Horton from Colorado State, who some people are familiar with because he was draft eligible last year, went back to school. Nick Anderson from Oklahoma. Elick Aomanor, I think it is, the kid from Stanford who put up like 250 on Colorado last year. That's the kind of receiver that makes more sense for the Patriots, given the way their roster looks right now. Of course, things can change. But I just think tackle. It's got to be a tackle. It's a tougher position to get. They've been without one for years and years and years. I would go left tackle, absolutely. And you have to protect your investment. Drake May's investment. You have to protect your investment.
Yeah, it's just such a harder position to get, right? Like you say it all the time. You haven't had a left tackle you're confident in since you started this show, like 5 years ago or whatever it is. And like every year now, it feels like there's just so many talented wide receivers in the draft, or we're sitting here talking about Brendan Ayuk maybe be on the move, or DK Metcalf. Like you can get those guys. It feels like all over the place, and we could even be sitting here this time next year and maybe Javon Baker exceeds all expectations, and you're really confident in him next to Jalen Polk and Demario Douglas, and maybe you just have your big three there, and then you go, then you need your left tackle. So I would lean left tackle. There looks like there's going to be like at least two really good ones at the top. There's two LSU kids, but one's a right tackle, obviously. And then I'm blanking on the guy's name from Texas right now, but there will be some good left tackles in the top 10 next year. So that's how I'd probably lean as well there. But not receiver, but pass catcher. What are your thoughts on the tight end room behind Hunter Henry? Hooper has always intrigued Ryan here. They also have Jaheim Bell, and we saw a couple kind of under radar guys like Michael Petway and Mitchell Wilcox were pretty involved throughout the spring. But how are your thoughts on that tight end room behind Henry, who's, we know what Hunter Henry is. He's going to be a reliable middle of the field red zone guy. But those other guys in that room.
We'll see with Hooper. He's played well in this system. He's probably some of the best years of his career in this system. He's a little bit older. I do think the door is open for a guy like Mitchell Wilcox. They're going to need a blocker, like that simple. They're going to need a blocking tight end. To me, Jaheim Bell is kind of his own thing. I don't think Jaheim Bell is competing for snaps or roster spot with Austin Hooper, or even with a guy like Mitchell Wilcox or LaMichael Petway. Because he's listed as a tight end, but he's not a real tight end. He's not going to do they shouldn't ask him to do the same things Hunter Henry or Austin Hooper are doing, because that's not his skill set. He's a unique player. He's kind of a gadgety scheme touch player. You're going to line up in the slot. You're going to line up in line. You're going to line up in the backfield. So to me, it's just him proving it's worth giving him a roster spot to have those things in the playbook. That's what he has to prove. I don't think it's head-to-head with anybody else. They've been deeper in the tight end room, but yeah, Hooper, he's intriguing. We'll see. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if we walk away from this year going like, all right, tight end 2, potential future tight end 1 is a need.
Bryson Nesbitt, reunite the boys.
Exactly. That would be pretty cool. That would be fun.
Or I love Colson Loveland, but he might be like a sneaky first-round pick.
Yeah.
That's too high for me.
That might end up being a little rich. But if we're talking about like end of day 2, kind of guy, like you said, Bryson Nesbitt, if he's in there, we'll see what happens with Oscar Delp, who's the next up at Georgia tight end, Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame. Like there's some guys there. It's shaping up to. We'll see who goes back to school and all that. A lot of these guys are true juniors or redshirt, sophomores. But it's shaping up to be an okay tight end class. We got a Rondé Gadsden's in there. I forgot about him. Mason Taylor, if he comes out, there's some players there.
Yeah. Nesbitt would be so fun for anyone who doesn't know.
Nesbitt would be fun.
He was at UNC with Drake May. So that would just be really fun to reunite those two. And he's a good player too. Like that's just not, you're reuniting them to reunite them. He's a good player at the tight end.
He was their best receiver 2 years ago before they got Tez Walker. Well, no, sorry. They had Josh Downs.
Josh Downs, yeah.
Yeah, but he was up there. He was a real contributor.
Yep. A defensive question. How do you feel about Marte Mapu this year? Landon thinks he could play a huge role on the defense, whether it's safety or linebacker. He's still been mostly at safety throughout the practices we attended during the spring, but he moves down there to linebacker occasionally, like in 2 minute, where you would expect him, maybe taking some of those Mac Wilson snaps from last year on that second level. So he still kind of feels like a weird fit though with all the other pieces on their defense. But what are you feeling about Mapu here entering his second season?
Yeah, I don't know. You got to remember, it's not the coaching staff that drafted him. It's not the front office that drafted him. And this happens all the time when you have that much overturn that players are drafted, especially a player like Mapu, who you kind of want to have a specific plan for, that he just, is that plan out the window? They have incredible depth at safety with Peppers and Duggar, and now they got Jalen Hawkins playing on the back end. And who am I missing at safety? No, that's it. Peppers and Duggar.
Duggars, Hawkins
playing on the back end. But they've got good depth at linebacker. They bring in Sione Takitaki. Mapu may just end up being what he was last year, which is a special teams player. I wouldn't rule that out. He'll probably play some safety, but I just think Hawkins is better on the deep part of the field. We know Peppers and Duggar are elite in the box, and they don't seem to want to play him at linebacker. So I'm not sure what his role is. He may end up being a special teams guy again. He could be a surprise cut candidate or a trade candidate.
Yeah. He's definitely going to be someone interesting to watch, just because the depth they have at those positions and where do they see him playing most of the time. It's interesting for a guy who was, a top 80 pick last year. It'll be interesting to watch. how it shakes out. A few more here, then we'll do a quick talk some Boston sports. Surprise offensive lineman this year. Basically, do you have anyone who you think this will be this year's City So? It's really like pick one of
they
the
need him,
tackles,
right?
I guess.
They need one.
Because it's going to be City So, David Andrews, Mike Onwenu. Does one of the tackles, I guess, surprise you? Are you confident in Chooks, or maybe Caden Wallace can be a surprise?
Caden Wallace will maybe show you something if he's playing right tackle. If they move Michael Onwenu inside, but it's tough to say. It's really tough to say. Maybe one of the veterans like Nick Leverett steps in and shows up. I don't know about any of the young guys though.
Yeah, they need one though. They need one guy to come out of nowhere and surprise everyone. Maybe it's Chooks. If it's Chooks, that would be unbelievable at the left tackle spot. But they need a this year's City So up there. Last Pats one here. Ron Wolf, Elliott's father, drafted quarterbacks almost every year. Do you think Elliott is going to start doing the same thing next year? Kind of interesting because they drafted 2 this year, so maybe they pass next year if Joe Milton sticks around. But they also only have Drake May and Joe Milton under contract for next year, so maybe they want to add a third. But then that's 2 young guys. Maybe they want to add a veteran. I don't know how that will look next year. I would definitely think going forward, they'll probably still keep drafting quarterbacks at some point, maybe not yearly. Assuming Drake May is the guy. Hopefully Drake May is the guy.
Well, I mean, look, they did it with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like maybe like every year to every other year. Like next year, it might make some sense to skip. But if they don't take one next year, I think 2026 definitely. Right. Yeah. Assuming Drake, even if Drake May works out, and then maybe going every other year from there. Because if you think about it, if you're going to keep 3 quarterbacks, which I think most teams will do now because of the rules, you have your starter. And if you draft every other year, assuming you hit well enough, you always have a reliable backup because you'll have, you draft a guy, he gets to learn for 2 years, then he becomes the backup. Next guy comes under him, learns from him for 2 years, and the next guy, right? So I think like every other year is probably a safe. Again, next year they might skip, like you said, because they drafted 2 guys this year. But I do think they're going to draft quarterbacks regularly as long as Elliott Wolf is here. And you know what? They did it under Bill too.
Yeah. Bill drafted them all the time. So, and it's good business because it's the most valuable position in the sport. If you can keep that, pipeline fresh, even if it just ends up like Jimmy Garoppolo, he has a good game or 2, or maybe it doesn't even get to that point. He has a good preseason game or 2, and you can trade him for a pick that's higher than you took him. That's a win, right? That's kind of the ideal situation with Joe Milton here. If he shows enough in the preseason or a joint practice or whatever, that some team wants to take a chance and maybe gives you a 4th round pick when you drafted him in the 6th round, that's good asset management right there. So it's good business to kind of keep drafting those guys. And as the question says, Ron Wolf did it. So you'd imagine Elliott would did it after he did it this year with Joe Milton there in the 6th round. But let's wrap it up we can talk a few Boston Sports Minute quick, but before we do that, I'll tell you about GameTime, which is the authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting all your tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off, kickoff, or whatever other sport you are going to watch now that the NBA is over. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed, GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying all your tickets. They have flash deals to save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game, or event in zone deals to save if you're looking to sit in a specific section. And they even have last minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, comedy, theater, or concerts. Plenty of concerts coming to Gillette Stadium soon. Zach Bryan next week. He'll be back in July. Of course, we wrap up the summer with Kenny Chesney coming to Gillette. And I believe I haven't seen the concert list for Fenway, but I'm sure there's going to be
good ones.
Plenty of good ones this summer. So go over to GameTime for your concert tickets as well. So download the GameTime app today, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed on the GameTime app. So Boston sports. Where do you want to start? Celtics Parade. Red Sox swept the series. Bruins are doing nothing while every NHL team is trading their goalies.
So much for that sense of urgency we talked about the other day.
Yeah, literally.
I'll say that. Forget the Celtics parade. Did you see what happened down at Raising Cane's today?
Al Horford.
Al Horford went to Raising Cane's. There were thousands and thousands of people.
I haven't seen
outside
any
Raising Cane's. Oh, there's video. Noah Dalzell, who does some stuff for CLNS. She had a bunch of pictures and videos. Is insane, and that's just for Al. Nothing against Al Horford, but my point is that's one player at Raising Cane's. Put the whole team in duck boats and run them through the city. It's going to be millions tomorrow.
I saw all the Joe Mazzulla last night in the North End. That was awesome. Him just walking around.
He's been doing some crazy interviews, man. I've totally come around on Joe. Is he the best coach in the NBA? No. Is he the perfect coach for this team in this city? 100%. It is Did you see the thing where he when he got his first job in Maine, he said he was making $15,000 a year with benefits, and he tried to give up the benefits. He's like, I'm not going to get hurt.
I'm not going to get sick or hurt. Like, I'm fine.
What a psycho. In the best way. And then there was another one where he was when he talked about tearing his meniscus during the season, it was good because it made me focus, hyper focus on coaching. And I'm like, he's wild, crazy person. It's great. I love it.
Oh, I just saw the Al Horford clips. That is insane.
It's insane. Oh, and then he said another one today. He was because he loves the town, right? They asked him about bank robberies. He goes, look, I'm not condoning it. But
the preparation, the attention to detail, it's pretty impressive. He is a psycho, and I love it so much. Yeah,
it's great. It's awesome.
That parade tomorrow is going to be unbelievable. It looks like the rain and the thunderstorms are going to hang off, knock on wood, until after, but it should be good. And then the Sox, they're hot. A sweep over the Blue Jays, one game out of the playoffs, I believe, right now. So, I mean, we talked about it the other day. Maybe just get some urgency here if they're going to buy in. We'll see what happens. But they're playing some good baseball, some fun baseball too. I love how much they run and steal bases. They look like a little league team out there. But I love that. Just put as much pressure on the other team as possible. That's a fun way to play.
I just wish they could field.
Yeah, they need some guys back there. But
last one here. What are you doing for your first rebuild in college football 25?
Oof.
I was probably going to do Wisconsin, right?
Probably. Or is that is a Big Ten team too good of a school just to start with?
Well, I mean, I definitely saw a lot of people saying Iowa. I thought about Iowa. I saw a chart today. It was ranking
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Do you see that? Where the top are cool group 5 hipster dynasties, and so that's App State, right, and Western Kentucky and ECU, Wyoming, and then the bottom tier is just you are the police, and it's Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan.
And then there was just an Iowa tier.
Yeah. Where do they? Let's see. Where do they have Wisconsin? They have Wisconsin under possibly fun Power 4. That's so weird to say that. Possibly fun Power 4 long shot. So
okay, maybe I'm just overhyping them there, but
so I usually do I'll be an OC, and I'll do a year or two at App State or Wyoming. I kind of want to do, or but then Wisconsin being that next step up is totally that makes sense.
Yeah, I was thinking, does Western Kentucky, are they going to have those cool uniforms? And remember those logos they did last year?
Yeah, I think so. And Big Red is in the game.
Yeah. Okay. So that I was thinking Western Kentucky for that. Shout out the Zappi family. But I also like Coastal just because their playbook is really fun.
Their playbook's sick. They've got the teal field, good jerseys, good spots to recruit. South Carolina, North Carolina, wherever they are. I was between Coastal, App State, Eastern Carolina, Wyoming, maybe one of the Michigan MAC schools. It's always fun starting in the MAC.
Yeah. Toledo, Bowling Green.
Yeah. But we got time to decide.
What's that, a month?
Less than a month.
16th
if you have early access, 19th for everybody else. So
right around a month.
So we will do a show on the 15th, and then you will not hear from me for a few days.
I still got to get my console. I'm slacking.
Dude, I get it. I heard that they might be tough to get right when the game comes out, because so many people are going to run out and get them.
Because everyone is like me, and I haven't played video games probably since COVID, and I need a new console, so everyone's going to run out for their NCAA console. But Yeah, I'll get on that. I wish we got it now so we could play before, like we had a month before training camp, but now we get like a week before training camp or whatever. But there'll be plenty of NCAA football played and discussed on this show. So
yes,
we will wrap it up here. Thanks for everyone for tuning in today and for the questions to power us through an off-season show here. We'll be back next week, 2 shows. We'll keep you updated. Patriots CLNS on Twitter. Our Twitter's at I am Brian Hines, at Real Alex Barth. And you can subscribe to Patriots Press Pass on YouTube and turn your notifications on so you know when we go live. You can also head over to 985thesportshub.com to read Barth's Celtics coverage from the finals earlier this week, and he'll have whatever Patriots offseason coverage pops up until training camp. And you can head over to patspulpit.com as well to read our Patriots offseason coverage over there as well. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Stay cool in this weather. Hopefully see everyone at the parade tomorrow, and enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week.